I need to correct for that, because even though it is what I think is true, that's ultimately not why individuals are there. Like they don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to hear that in that way.
Yeah.
So I think you do need the tough love it, but at the same time, you need to moderate that with, okay, what are we doing with it now, and how can we actually, be more positive, take positive forward steps. So yeah, that's a lesson to learn from my side, not to be not to be such a
Yeah.
bar humbug type of character. But there we go. Anyway, we're live, everybody. Welcome to Brainfood Live on air, bringing it to you every Friday, no fail. It is episode 255, and I'm super excited to have a chat with you today, because it is, in fact, kind of a secret sequence of webinars we've been doing since we've been aware of the loss, quote unquote, of LinkedIn X-ray search. It's not so much a loss, but we know that LinkedIn may be starting to restrict user profile being crawled by search engines. That obviously impacts our ability to find candidates off platform using Boolean searching. So we've talked about what the situation is. This conversation here is a review of that, but it's also a conversation to say, okay, what do we do if this is the case? And in fact, let's expand it somewhat. It may well be other sort of social networks and online properties that have user profile data begin to do the same. What does that world look like for us in recruiters? What do we do? Do we just pay? Do we just give up and just say, okay, LinkedIn, we're going to dive in. That's all we got. Or there are other techniques that we can try. So anyway, that's the topic we've got today. If you're interested in all of that, you're in the right place. Okay, let's do some sound checks real quick. Did anyone hear that? That's a good one to start with. Let me know in the crowdcast, if you're watching it there in the chat stream, whether you can hear me okay. And you should be able to see me and Aaron Matthew next to me. And we are also broadcasting this on LinkedIn, I hope. Let me just check on my my second screen. Happens to be on my phone. Do you know those posh people have multiple screens?
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah,
do,
I'm
but I
like,
forget to plug them in.
I'm like, the second screen is my mobile. Okay, I seem to be online on my LinkedIn, which is great. If you're watching it anywhere else, let me know. Thank you, Liz. It's good to know. So we're live everywhere, which is good stuff. Okay, cool. We have the wonderful Aaron Matthew on a screen with us again. And I say again, and I know it's been a while, so I apologize for that. I apologize to the crowd. That's taken a while to get Aaron back. But Aaron, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Yeah, I'm Erin Matthew, and I work in executive search at PayPal. I have been, pretty much making sourcing my primary career for the last 6 years or so, even though I originally started out as a full cycle recruiter. You may have seen some of my content on various other platforms before. It's out there, and happy to be back on Brainfood. This is one of my favorite platforms to appear on, so very excited to be back today.
Can I also say, by the way, folks, having just heard 20 seconds of Erin right there, would you not agree that Erin has one of the most, like, the best sounding voices in our industry? I mean, let me know in the chat. I mean, what do you think of Erin's voice as it sounds on air? I honestly think that Erin Matthew, you need to be doing your own podcast,
If I
because
had the
you've got
time, I totally would. But 2-year-old at home, full-time job, maybe not
just
for a couple of years.
bring on the Bambino. I think everyone would welcome that. So it would all be good. Okay, we've got more users wanting to come on stage, but that's fine. But that's not happening for a little while. So don't worry about this yet, because we have to do some other stuff like review the newsletter. Now, did you read the newsletter, Erin? And if you did, what was interesting from last week?
Yeah, so the very first thing that I read from that list was the article about Boeing and their brain drain of talent. I definitely read that first because I don't know if you know this about me, but I have a very intense fear of flying. And it seems to be getting worse, as time goes on. So, that was the one that caught my eye immediately. And really, what the article covers is Boeing's corporate shift, where they went from valuing experienced engineers to focusing more on cutting costs and increasing profits at any means necessary. And really, it's created a culture of a fear of speaking up for safety violations. And then we have situations like doors blowing off of planes mid-flight, which is a terrifying thought. And honestly, I think that my fear of flying definitely coincided with, the time, I think like 5 years ago when the planes, the Max 8 started falling out of the sky. But it's a terrifying prospect when any company values profits over safety of its consumers or even its employees. And I've seen that across multiple industries, not just the aerospace industry. Very locally here in Asheville, we have one hospital locally. That's it. And it used to be a not-for-profit hospital, but was recently taken over by a for-profit hospital system. And when my husband and I moved here, he actually chose to not go to inpatient nursing as a job because of all of the horrible things he heard about for conditions for nurses. And supposedly they intentionally understaff nurses in order to save money, and it's putting the patients at risk. So, what do we do in a society when companies are able to essentially cut corners at the risk of safety?
Yeah, it's shareholder like capitalism, isn't it? It's the idea that the only
Pretty
person that
much.
matters is the shareholder. That's the only every decision that you make in the business is all about what's good for the shareholder, and oftentimes that is chopping out parts of the company because guess what? The biggest cost of most companies is actually payroll. So if you can reduce payroll, then things aren't falling apart immediately. Therefore, you can say, yeah, we've got extra profit. At the same time as Boeing's kind of reputation and its sort of accident rate, incident rate goes up, the profit rate and the share value went up because basically those things are aligned. It's one of those where you have to kind of take extra care. That's going to be more inefficiency from a spreadsheet point of view. It means more inefficiency. If you check twice rather than check once, right? On a spreadsheet, that will say, oh, this person is inefficient. But no, you are double checking. So it's all about you're making sure. And that's what this article is all about. It's a really powerfully written expose of the cultural change, basically, that has occurred in one of the leading, probably one of the most respected companies in American history. I would say it's certainly one of the national champions of the country. Everyone really knows the brand, but it's all about for them outsourcing. Boeing, it seems to be, it's just become like a brand on top of a bunch of outsourcing companies that kind of stick the thing together. And on the issue of the door blowing off, they actually had no record of who installed, like whether the bolts were installed. It's like, we don't know. And it's like, how can you not know? It's terrible. And by the way, Aaron, I'm really sorry that may have exacerbated your fear of flying. I didn't consider that would also be a case, but yeah, I'm kind of not
Yeah.
100% comfortable with it, these
Yeah. I
days.
mean, the
So
information's out there. It was going to reach me at any point anyways, but
yeah.
makes me wish even more that the US would install, more of a high-speed rail system. I would be on that all the time to travel across country instead of that.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely safer. You're just not in the air, and you're on lines. So hopefully,
yeah.
it's going to be better. But it will happen. It will happen. Okay, listen, read that article. It's really good. Okay, what else is interesting, Aaron?
Yeah, so the Stop Bias report by TribePad. I really thought that was an interesting take on how to approach diversity studies, and it was all about candidate perception about whether or not they believe that they would be discriminated against. And obviously, I related most to the point in there about whether or not you feel as though your career suffers if you have a child. And this is just an area that I've had some experience in myself, and then also talked to other moms about this. Especially in the US, we're often faced with the situation of, do I go back to work or am I able to take a break to be a mom for a couple of years? And unfortunately, the reality is if you are essentially the primary caregiver and you decide to take time away from work and there's a gap in your resume, your career is going to suffer. There's really no way around that. There's a bias oftentimes with employers saying, oh, well, you've been out of work for 3 years. We're going to have to start you at a lower salary, not where you were before. Maybe you're out of practice with your skills, rather than maybe offering resources that could help women or men that were stay-at-home dads return to the workplace. It really is absurd. So it's I think that there is a lot of heavy perception that many would suffer from bias. They also covered groups like minorities, you know people that were older, thought that they would experience discrimination as well, be less likely to receive a promotion.
Yeah, a really interesting points. And by the way, I think your first point was spot on. It was actually quite a rare study because it looked at the perception.
Yeah,
How do people feel about it? And there's loads of interesting sort of nuances on there that you need to explore. But certainly leading on to the issue of childbirth, pregnancy, parenting, I think we can broadly agree that none of the systems that we've set up are really optimized for a primary caregiving parent. And in fact, it penalizes primary caregiving parents
yeah,
because the system has been set up so you're always on, right?
yeah,
We design the job that way. I had a joke with a friend of mine to say, look, the problem we have is that fundamentally a job is designed as if everyone's a 25-year-old male. A
pretty
single
much.
male, able-bodied male. That's how we think. Every job that we've designed is that way. If you deviate from that template, then you have to work either extra hard to get to the same place, or it becomes like very uncomfortable for you to have to introduce. Very uncomfortable for you to try and negotiate those extra spaces. So we need to have more flexible jobs. Basically, we need to think about, okay, what are the breadth of different types of human beings, different stages of their lives that may be good employees for this type of work, and can we design a job, or can we have that job kind of collaboratively designed so that it best fits that person's circumstances. But we're a long way away yet, but I hope we're getting there. I hope we're starting to having conversations and starting to mobilize some thoughts around it at the very least. But yeah, great report. So you should definitely read it. Yeah, absolutely. Job design ignores basic biology is 100% true. It also ignores sort of the changes in biology. I'm getting older, as we all are, by the way, folks. And one of the things I've been thinking of is, look, at some point, my brain's going to just get worse. It probably is already there. But the job does not actually cater for that. It just says, okay, you've still optimal capacity in every element of what you do. It's like, nah, I'm going to get worse and worse at this. So not to say the job should get worse, but surely there should be some flexibility because you can still offer value in different ways. Okay, give us one more, Aaron, before we get on with this.
Yeah, I really love the article by Henley Wing Chu about how they scraped all of ChatGPT's enterprise customers. And the findings are pretty interesting to me. I think it's less than 5% of the Fortune 500 have adopted the enterprise version of ChatGPT. And then the adoption rates just among employees were relatively low. And probably the biggest point that stood out to me was whether or not it changed the workforce planning of each of these companies that implemented ChatGPT Enterprise, because obviously that's the hot button issue of the moment is, automation and AI going to take all of our jobs. And the interesting thing is that they didn't see a fundamental change in their workforce planning ever since then. And I think that it's still early in the game with this new technology, and I think that part of it might be a lack of understanding of how to even use AI, because honestly, it's not a situation where you're just going to turn on ChatGPT and it's going to do, dozens and dozens of jobs of people. You actually have to know how to use it. And there's a science to that in and of itself. And I think that that's the part that many people don't quite grasp about that.
Sorry, I'm just chewing a locket at the moment. The reason for that, I've just got like a dodgy throat. So I'm trying not to cough, therefore I'm chewing sweets. Absolutely. This guy, I don't know what he does. I think he's a founder or something, but he must have found like, okay, the way in which I'm going to demonstrate what my product is just do random research for this post. And it's actually really interesting. So who has bought the enterprise version of ChatGPT, and what kind of people do they hire? How does that affect their recruiting? How does it affect their workforce composition? Super interesting bit of research. Go dive into that and take a look. Okay, thanks a lot for that, Aaron. I forgot something, folks. I forgot that Brainfood Live is always sponsored every single week. And this week's sponsor is absolutely aligned with what we're talking about, because there are a bunch of guys that we know. There are actually a bunch of us recruiter friends that have actually created a product which they think can be really useful for sourcing. So let's bring on Isaac right now, and he can tell us a little bit about it. Let's see where he is. Oh, is there such a thing as Isaac? I hope he's signed up as Isaac. Some people like to use this as a branding opportunity, and they talk about their company. And it's like, yeah, I don't know whether that's you, man. Isaac, there's only one Isaac. He's coming on. So hopefully he can.
Am I here?
He is there.
Here.
There he is. Isaac, wonderful to see you, man. Great to see you, dudes. Isaac, can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Sure, absolutely. Isaac Marks. Many of you know me. I know you, and thank you for all the help that you've offered throughout the years. I run a recruiting agency called Recruit Cloud. I'm also a principal in a company called HireFast, which is a platform we built. It's very interesting. My history, I'll tell you in 2 words, and you'll know where I come from. I go as far as back as Hot Jobs, and I know the funds. And I go as late and as advanced, I guess, as OpenAI and using ChatGPT and incorporating large language models into everyday workflow. So vast experience, lots of scars that I've gained throughout the years, but I wear them well.
Are you a 3-decade veteran of this business, Isaac?
I hate to say it, man. Like I said, I got those scars and I wear them well, and they're all healing fast.
That's great. And by the way, Isaac, it's wonderful to see innovation coming from the recruiting company community itself. So tell us a little bit about HireFast. I think we'll take a look at it later on in the show, but tell us a quick overview. What the hell is it? Why should people care?
Look, we're all here for the same purpose. We're all experiencing deterioration of access, right? Whether it's LinkedIn, X-ray searching, we're being squeezed. It's getting harder and harder. So, there's hundreds of platforms, which I don't need to name. You guys know them all. They're all mostly an iteration of taking LinkedIn and putting another UI on it. But at the end of the day, we're still seeing the same data being churned over and over again. Resumes are 2-dimensional. A lot of these esoteric, or at least there are plenty of platforms out there that are inaccessible by the average recruiter, right? Including GitHub, Stack Overflow, and plenty of others. They're inaccessible because, for example, knowing how to navigate GitHub, which people like Aaron, and others are experts, unfortunately, it's only like a 2-3% of the recruiting and sourcing industry that do. To write these kind of Boolean strings inside GitHub is a problem. Geolocation in GitHub is a known problem. So Odessa, Ukraine could be interpreted as Odessa, Texas in GitHub, which is a very big, problem. So, we created HireFast as a platform that shows you proof of work. And so we've incorporated LLMs, OpenAI, to have easy natural language processing instead of writing complex Boolean searches, which means access for everyone. But the golden ticket, the flower of this platform, is the ability to take public profiles and we score them and rank them, and we call that proof of work. Because again, resumes are wonderful, LinkedIn profiles are wonderful, but to bring it all together, we want to give you a full picture and give you the code capabilities of the candidate. And again, our roadmap is huge. We're starting with GitHub, Stack Overflow, CodePen, multiple LLM incorporation is on the way. We're going to make this fun again.
This sounds really exciting, Isaac. I look forward to seeing a bit of it later. Folks, let me know in the chat whether you want to see a demo of HireFast, and we'll get Isaac back on screen to do just that. Isaac, I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. We'll bring you back in a sec, okay?
I'll be there. Thank you.
don't want to age you, Aaron, but how many decades have you got in the recruiting game?
Well, one.
Good. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. But yeah, I'm actually with Isaac. I think I'm a decade 3 now, very close to. Brian Fink, how many decades have you got in the recruitment game, sir?
I'm under 2 decades. I'm half as many decades as Steve Levy.
There we go. Folks, we've got loads of people coming on, so we might have to do a roll on, roll off type of effect. So I'm not sure we can get that many people on screen at the same time. And I don't want people also to be staring and not being able to speak. So I think I've got Dean.
You don't want people staring? If you didn't want people staring, then Hung, why are you so attractive? Why are you so handsome? Look at that. Look at that, like, half-shaven beard. Like, look at you. Like,
all of these people are paid really well. They're on a yearly stipend. Brian, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Hey, everybody. My name is Brian Fink. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am a senior technical sourcer and talent partner at McAfee Security. I help you be safe online wherever you might go. And I'm excited to be here. And I stand by my comment that Hung Lee is the most attractive man in recruiting.
There we go, guys. It's been decided. It's been confirmed. No more need be said back on that topic. But Brian, wonderful to see you on the show. I'm going to share a link with people so they can connect with you there. Dean DaCosta, wonderful to see you as well, sir. Can you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
My name is Dean DaCosta. I'm an enterprise sourcing practice lead at Lockheed Martin.
Fantastic stuff, Dean. Wonderful to see you, man. Okay, let's get on with this topic. We're going to bring on sort of Charles later. We're also going to bring on Brandon later. We're going to do a swap on, swap off, and maybe some other folks that want to come on as well. So don't worry about if you're not on screen yet. Let's talk about sort of where we're at with LinkedIn, X-Ray, and what have you. What's your view of the situation? Do you see any big changes? What should sources be doing if these changes are in fact taking effect? What are what's the direction of travel that we as a sub-discipline need to head towards? Brian, why don't we go with you first on that?
I'm actually gonna double click on something I think Dean is going to say. Is that Dean is probably going to say, use your brain when sourcing. It's the most powerful sourcing tool that's out there. Dean, I'm sorry I took that from you. But the reality of it is that individuals are not being curious enough to dig into what is happening and why it's happening. They're taking things at face value, and we've got to go deeper. If you'll notice, X-Ray, where it's compromised on LinkedIn, LinkedIn X-Ray is compromised on Google. It is not compromised on Bing or DuckDuckGo or other search engines that are meta search engines. So the curiosity is, why would you stop at one door when you could open up other doorways to find that same information? Also, that information has not been compromised on mobile, whether you're using the Google native app or Google on iOS as your search engine. This is something that I've shown several times in different groups, and I just want to know, why aren't recruiters being curious?
That's really interesting. So what you're saying is, you know what, the classic way in which we're searching, which is using Chrome probably on desktop, or using Google, that's obviously being the primary way in which we interact with as a first sort of starting point of sourcing. But you're saying, actually, no, if you start from somewhere else, you start from a different search engine, or even on mobile, I didn't realize this, or a mobile version on desktop, then suddenly you'll be able to perform similar searches or the same searches and get decent results. Is that more or less a good summary of what you've just said there, Brian?
Yeah, actually, it is a good summary of what I said. I mean, when this story first broke, I went into Bing on mobile, and I was able to show that we were able to get the same results, if not better results, right? So this is it's a curiosity factor. I mean, like, I look at people like Steve and Dean who challenge me every single day to go further and deeper when I'm asking these questions. Why would we stop at just using one search engine? Also, Bing brings back more competitive results than Google does. It brings back better results. You can test that in Google versus Bing, or you can test that in Bing natively.
Have we lost Brian?
No, I'm still here. I just hit a stop. Did you lose me?
No, you were just there. You just like it was some sort of glitch in the matrix, man. But I think it was a biological glitch in the matrix. You were still there, but it looked like your screen was frozen. But no, that's great. So Bing is good to go, folks. Have you tried Bing instead of just leaning on Google all the time? You need to do that because that may be the quickest way to get over this little hump. Dean DaCosta, go to you on this. Brian might have stolen a bit of your thunder on it, but tell us your view on sort of where we're at now, what sources need to do if we are seeing, let's say, certain things being compromised with major sort of tools that we used to.
Pretty much everything Brian said's accurate is very accurate. There are a plethora of search engines out there, and most of them, unless they are a Google-based search engine, aren't having the same issues at all. Bing works great. There's actually a Bing versus Google site where you can actually put your string in and it'll show both results side by side. And it's incredibly how different the results are and how Bing usually is much better, more targeted, and doesn't have the same issues. But as a side note to all of that, people have been being allowed to make their profiles private, which means even if you X-ray, you're not going to find them. However, if you X-ray into an archive like the Wayback Machine, they're there because I've done it many times. I got a friend of mine who put his private about 3 months ago, and he told me I couldn't find it, and I did right on Wayback Machine. It's right there. The other thing that people need to understand is everybody on LinkedIn are also on other places. And to sit there and think, well, they're only on LinkedIn is really kind of ridiculous. LinkedIn, if we believe what they're saying now, is they have 1 billion people. No, they don't. You get rid of dead people. You get rid of profiles that aren't real. You get rid of people with multiple profiles, people that only put their name in. They're about 500 million. Well, guess what? Last I checked, Facebook's got 3.5 billion. 60% of people on GitHub aren't on LinkedIn, and there's a reason they aren't on LinkedIn. So we need to use our heads, use our brains, and start thinking a little out of the box. I think we have become so used to doing what's simple that we stopped realizing a couple extra seconds and you get more. I still X-ray into LinkedIn, and I can even do it from Google, but you have to do it smarter than you used to. It's not just simple site colon linkedin.com/in and Java developer. Now you have to use anchor words to really target what you want. For those you don't know, an anchor word is a word that appears in every single solitary profile. As an example, in LinkedIn, if they are currently working, their most current place they're working will have the word present. So if you put Java developer around 10 present, you'll get people who are currently Java developers because it looks for 10 words before and after for the term Java developers. Make sure you put it in quotes. So there's ways. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Dean, to interrupt. Just want to reiterate what Dean's saying. We've got a bunch of questions coming in from LinkedIn and chat stream as well. Folks, we can't keep up with them all, so can you use the Q&A function on Crowdcast? If you have a question specifically that needs to be answered by the crowd, by the panel, use the Q&A. We'll go to that towards the end of this session. It should be on the right-hand sidebar if you're watching this on Crowdcast. If you're not and you're doing this on LinkedIn, I'll come back to you. Don't worry. We've got a few people that are commenting on there. And Martel, I'll definitely get back to you on that. Okay, so
FYI, I'm in between decade 3 and 4.
Good to know, man.
FYI, okay. I've been there for quite a while, mind you. I refuse to go any higher.
Okay, Dean, actually, there's a couple of things you could do immediately. I mean, are you still maintaining your Start Me page or whatever, that online thing?
Yes.
Go and share that in the chat stream and Crowdcast. I think it's a really useful tool, really useful resource, probably one of the most useful resources for any sources out there. It's basically an updated sort of collection of tools that Dean uses. And of course, that means that there's tons of amazing things in there that you wouldn't have encountered. So Martel, when you're talking about the sites that, do the comparison, etc., it'll be in that Start Me page, I'm pretty certain. So do check that out. Bookmark it. I've shared it loads of times in Brainfood before, so I feel I can't do it anymore. Otherwise, it'll just be repetition. But it's definitely something people need to be constantly aware of. Okay, so improving your sort of Boolean skills actually can make sort of X-ray still effective. So anchor words, if you don't know what that is, I think Dean explained it really well. But certain parts of a user profile will have words that LinkedIn itself is part of the template that LinkedIn use. But of course, if it uses it, it's going to be in there as a bit of text on that page, in which case it will be searchable if indeed that page is still indexed in some way
And
by a
keep
search.
in mind, it's not just LinkedIn. Every single social site out there has them. GitHub, Stack Overflow, Facebook, just to name a few right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I remember Glenn Cathy used to say this. It's like basically everything is a text page, and we need to not forget that, despite the fact it looks like a graphical interface, and we're looking at all of these. You know what? It's a graphical interface. It's an interface for us, but at the just one layer underneath that, it is a bunch of text, and it's the text that actually search engines are processing. So very good indeed. Okay, so we know we need to be smarter. We know we need to kind of diversify the toolkit that we're using. What about if we take a look, a little bit of a future sort of look in it and say, okay, what if LinkedIn or other organizations kind of follow what LinkedIn are doing, which is basically saying, you know what, we don't necessarily like search engines crawling our stuff anymore. We've got another way. We don't care, let's say, about the traffic anymore, because, you know, everyone knows this. We're going to start blocking people off. So let's say Google starts, sort of Stack Overflow starts doing that, Reddit starts doing that, all social networks start deciding, okay, we're going to go to a less open world. We're going to be a more of a walled city type of approach. What is your approach to this? Go ahead, Dean.
Well, first of all, if they were to do that and LinkedIn goes forward with what it's doing, there will be other issues it's going to have to deal with. Technically, that means they're no longer a social site. They're just going to have to come clean and say what they really are, which is a glorified job board. Because that's what they really are turning into. And that's fine if that's what they want to do. They can do that. But again, people can be found everywhere. Facebook, again, if they were to do that, they would have to then say we're not a social site, which would then be against their whole entire core beliefs and their whole little agreement with us. They would have to change their terms of service. They have to do it. And there will always be others that pop up. Example, Mastodon. Mastodon wasn't all that big, at least not in my radar, but it became in my radar. Very large now. A lot of that's thanks to Aaron, by the way. And so have other sites. And that's, you know, as these sites try to close off and protect our data that they're trying to say is their data, and that's another issue we'll deal with in a minute. Other sites are going to pop up and people are going to start migrating away from one to the other. It's just the way it's going to be. It's the way it's been throughout history. I mean, something goes wrong here, they migrate. When there's no more food in this location, people migrate to where the food's at. I mean, it's been happening since the dinosaurs. And it's no different here. Human beings are creatures of habit. They're going to go where it's most conducive.
Hung, I want to come back to something that we talked about at the top of the conversation with Aaron. We talked about capitalism. I wonder if people realize that Google has contracts in place with a lot of these companies like LinkedIn and Reddit that they pay upwards of $60 million a year for 3-year annual contracts to be able to scrape their data and have their search results show up in search. I don't think that Reddit or LinkedIn is going to cut their nose off to spite their face with $60 million worth of data on the table at a minimum for a 3-year engagement.
Agreed.
I just don't believe it.
Yeah,
they want to make money.
Make it harder. They want to make it harder. They're not. Nothing I've seen so far, including talking to people at LinkedIn, says they're going to close off yet. Anyway. But
yeah, I mean, my read on this, by the way, I don't talk to anybody on LinkedIn, but I'm just like, I prefer to speculate from the outside, you know, with no evidence. But basically, I see this as just like them taking a shot at some of the companies that were directly competing against them. So in other words, a lot of the sites that were dependent on LinkedIn data that were basically presenting a nicer interface, a cheaper service, etc. And he just thought, you know what, we're going to knock those guys out. And they may have made a pretty casual decision to say, okay, quickest way to do that is to, restrict a lot of the data that these companies are dependent on, without necessarily thinking that actually there's probably hundreds of thousands of sources that were not using those tools, but actually doing, X-ray searching off platform. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting to see. So in other words, what I think is that's possibly a reversible decision. It doesn't feel to me like a deeply thought strategic position where they're saying, right, this is the direction of travel going. I think it's like a middle tier product manager decision. It feels like that's my speculation anyway. So maybe that's wishcasting. Go ahead, Brian.
Hung, real quick, about short-sighted decisions. LinkedIn makes a lot of those. I remember years ago that they purchased Connectifier and they deprecated that software because they thought it was a threat to their business. And then all these other companies kind of followed suit with Connectifier. So let's agree, LinkedIn is not the best at projecting their business or what they want to do with their community.
Yeah, and that gives us some hope, right? I mean, it's kind of like riding a whale to a large degree. Like we can't really control it, but it's not necessarily malign. It's not necessarily benign, but it might hurt you because it's a big whale. But there's advantages of being around it. So go ahead, Dean.
I feel like I'm back in school, which has been a long time. Jazz hands. So I don't know how many of y'all remember a while back, LinkedIn made a big deal out of scraping and tried to bully some people, and they lost. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen here is a number of issues. Number one, if they try to close off, companies are going to sue them, and people will sue them. So humor. When we sign up, it's a social network for us to socialize and collaborate with other people and do things like that. In order to do that, you've got to be found. You got to be found on multiple platforms. That would include Google, Bing, and all the others. And then, of course, you go into LinkedIn to get there. So if they close off, that means that feature is no longer there. And there are going to be people that sue them. No one has ever really challenged once you put it in our system, it's no longer your data, it's ours thing yet. But, let me rephrase that. In the US, they have. In Europe, they have. In Europe, they've challenged it and they won.
No, there was a US company that challenged it and won. It was high sense or something. Something.
I'm talking about high five. I'm talking about the people, us, like me challenging them. Hey, it's my data. If I want to take, like I have a friend of mine who died a long time ago, and his family had been trying to get his profile off LinkedIn forever, and LinkedIn refused that it's our data. We don't have to take them off. Oh. They're about to take them to court, and they're going to win because in the end, it's not really their data. They're trying to say it's their data, but that's because no one's challenged them because they are the bully. And then when they got bought by Microsoft, they became a bigger bully.
Do you know what, Dean? I think you've actually made a really interesting point, which I hadn't anticipated, which was obviously there's people will pass away that will have LinkedIn profiles, and yeah, I think that may be one of the angles in which people might then reclaim back who owns it, because LinkedIn probably on the the black and white copy of the T's and C's will probably say, yes, of course, this says we own it. But I think there's a very, very strong argument to say you shouldn't be keeping someone's data up there if their family does not want that to happen. And then that opens up the avenue to say, okay, maybe the data isn't actually yours. And, we need to review or renegotiate those T's and C's. Yeah, very, very interesting. Go ahead, Erin.
I just got to say, am I the only one that was a little bit confused when all of this panic about X-ray search being dead was sort of swirling around everywhere that we turned? I guess I have to be honest, I didn't really notice, and I don't know that I would have noticed unless there were a million blogs everywhere saying that X-ray was suddenly dead on LinkedIn.
But you aren't. There was a lot of panic. And those panics will all be driven by a small group of people who were trying to capitalize on the panic to sell training, to do things, which is, so you got the answer you were looking for, Aaron, because I know that's what you were looking for. It was being capitalized by people trying to sell training, sell books, sell this, sell that. It unfortunately, capitalism is what it is, and if there is any kind of event, people will find a way to capitalize on it, whether they should or not.
No, hang on.
Wait a minute. I'm going to go one step further because Brian loves to call people out for their bullshit. All right. And I realize that people are going to call me out for my bullshit. But
this is a safe for work show, by the way. It's also live streamed. So on your head, be it.
My mother is watching, and my mother has heard me say the word bullshit. So it's okay. I didn't say the F word, so I don't owe Steve money. But the reality of it is that.
But you do owe us a beer when we see you next time.
Yeah, I owe you a beer. All right. So a beer at Wreckfest, right? We can say Wreckfest. Yes. It's a 7-letter word we can say on this. Is that Aaron and I watched one of the people who are perpetrating this mythology actually do an X-ray search inside of Google at SourceCon in Orlando 2 weeks ago.
I know who. And I wasn't there.
Well, here's something Michael Tonks says something really interesting on the LinkedIn. He's watching this on LinkedIn. So thanks, Mike. He's saying that actually there was a moment where LinkedIn X-ray was not working for him, and then it's actually come back. So I wonder whether there is a situation where there's like a reversible decision where maybe it was get dropped in.
Keep in mind when you use and then Brian still needs to finish what he's saying. I can tell he wants to. He's got the. When you use Google, there are different types of servers that you can hit. One is an education server designed for educational institution that uses a weird older Boolean logic. If you hit that, you're not going to get what you want. How many people have done a search in Google and then done the same search and the results aren't exactly the same? There are different types of servers. So it is usually quite feasible that they hit a test server, which they have, where they test different things. Like, okay, let's take away the number operator. Let's take away this and see how it works. And sometimes you'll hit it. Back in the day, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, the number range server stopped working. Everybody panicked, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, wait a minute, let me run. Okay, didn't work, run, didn't work, run, it worked. You're hitting the test server where they're testing the idea of doing different things. And then they decide against it.
You know, that's very, very interesting because we do know that there was actually a really inconsistent experience. Some people were saying, hey, listen, this is because it's a stage rollout or because it was experimentation. But you've just introduced another idea, which is to suggest that actually it was always the case that, you know, you're not going to get the same consistent results, no matter sort of how precise your searching is. Folks, I've just realized the time. We have to really accelerate on. So Brian and Dean, final words for you, just advice to recruiters out there or future of sourcing. Like, what's the one thing you would say that they need to do to be equipped no matter what happens with LinkedIn X-ray? Brian, you go.
Be curious.
Very good. Be curious, guys. What about you, Dean?
Brian took it, but I'll say it again. Use your best tool, your brain.
Your brain, folks. Okay, Brian, Fink, Dean DaCosta, thank you so much for your time. Great to see you guys. We're gonna bring on Brandon Jeffs. Let's see if Brandon is on here. I saw Brandon yesterday, actually. Let's have a look here. And we also have Charles as well. Let's see if I can bring Charles on. Here we go. Oh, no. Where is the Aquaman? There he is, Chris. Sorry, Chris. Oh, there's Brandon. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, fam? Good to see you.
Great to see the hair as usual. Looking good. Very good. Brandon, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Brandon. I'm Director of People and Talent at TLDR. If you're a newsletter nerd, if you love media, startups, tech, all that, definitely subscribe. But yeah, thanks for having me on. Good to see you again twice in 24 hours. I feel like luckiest guy in the world.
Indeed. So, and it is the same shirt. I haven't actually washed since that time, Brandon. But there we go. For the folks who don't know, basically I met Brandon yesterday for lunch in Denver. And it was like, got to take a flight. And then as soon as the flight happened, it was like, boom, got to do Brainfood Live. And here I am. So it feels like nothing's happened since our lunch. So it's like literally it's the same day. Okay, why is Chris not on? Okay, whilst Chris is doing that, Brandon, having heard some of the things that Brandon and Brian and Dean and Erin has said, what are your views on LinkedIn X-Ray, future thereof? Like, what are you seeing? What do you anticipate going on in the future?
Yeah, one of the things I love about recruiters is we're like professionals at sussing out BS. And like we're not easy to pull the wool over our eyes. So like, yeah, as soon as I saw the media reporting all of that, like what did I do? Like everybody else, I just started ripping a bunch of searches. The reality is I got 3 screens after this from folks I x-rayed on Google in the last couple of weeks. So it is still alive and well. It's just a matter of timing what I've found. But yeah, alternative platforms, Bing. I'm a startup guy, so I get away with a lot of stuff and don't need like tremendous high volume or really scalable things or a lot of approvals to do stuff. I'm able to just like move fast and get stuff done. So yeah, I think like just be curious and just think for yourself, like figure out where your talent pool is going to serve your client or your company. There's no one size fits all way to sourcing, and there's no one right way to hire. And there's also no like recruiting jail.
Yeah. And also you mentioned that you were doing sort of the, what's the word? You're kind of basically tapping into the cached pages that Google had. So it wasn't necessarily overly dependent on things that may or may not be there now. But of course, there's lots of stuff in archives. So tell us a little bit about that, Brandon.
Yeah, so I always kind of A/B test a Google versus Bing search anyway. And even when I've had like flush budgets for a sexy tech stack and I've had a recruiter seat, like I just prefer to do stuff scrappy. So even if I have recruiter, like I'll run X-ray searches just because I've got a million tabs open anyways. I think there's also alternative tools out there, and you get to a point where you want to support your friends. So you get a little bit of budget. Like, yeah, I'll throw $200 to a founder who I've met in person and like have hit off a friendship with to see what their tool is all about and see how their data provider enriches that text content. I think like always reminding, if you're an early recruiter, like everything on the internet is text. So just figure out how to find that text.
So you've got to drill it into people's minds, because we lose the thought on that, because as things get more visual, as they get more rich media, etc., we forget there's actually all built into code, which is text, still text-based documents at the back end. Chris, wonderful to see you, and thanks for being kind of a late volunteer to join the show, Chris. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself, who are you, what it is you do?
Yeah, so I'm Chris, also known as Aquaman. I work with Marvin Smith over at BECU. I specialize primarily in tech sourcing as a senior talent sourcer. I also play with my kids, and they keep me busy.
Fantastic stuff, Chris. Chris, you were like, we were talking about the show, and like everyone was saying, look, you got to get Chris on the show because of what he was talking about. So can you explain your popularity? Like, why are you here by popular demand, Chris?
That's a good question.
SourceCon for one thing.
Yeah, so I presented at SourceCon in Orlando. I have some great friends. It was great to meet Aaron in person there at SourceCon, and Brian as well. But a lot of the conversation around it was, how do you leverage Boolean in an effective way to still look for LinkedIn profiles or to migrate off of LinkedIn and look at other profiles? And the big message that I was trying to push was you need to iterate. It's easy to get into a groove and to feel like, hey, I can build a string that works, but unless you're iterating on your search, you're not really improving. The Dean and Brian said it best: you got to stay curious, and if you're not curious about the strings that are working for you and how to improve them, you're going to be missing out on talent.
It sounds like a talk I need to see, Chris, but having failed, obviously I wasn't there, and the people who are listening to this can't see it. So can you explain to us, what do you mean by iterate? So let's say I create a Boolean string, I pump it in, it doesn't work. How do I iterate from that? Is there a particular sort of sequence or thinking that you go through to try and generate different results?
Sure. So a lot of the conversation that we were having was actually between Erin and myself. She asked a great question about the wildcard using the asterisk in your Boolean searches. And I gave a presentation on this yesterday, but a lot of it is that you're going to get different results with different tactics. So if I start with an around statement and I'm anchoring natural language with an around statement, I'm going to get different results than if I were to use a wildcard statement because they inherently function differently. They also have different purposes. So I can nest geographical locations with an around statement while I'm looking at LinkedIn profiles, and I can't do that with a wildcard statement. So it's if you're taking different approaches, you're going to find different results. Is really what it boils down to. And Brandon just said it right. There's not a one size fits all, right? You gotta go for it. You gotta try different things and figure out what works.
Great advice, guys. Okay, so in terms of the dystopic future that Erin and I kind of touched upon right at the beginning, which is maybe sites get more defensive with who is accessing their data. Maybe they're thinking along the lines of, the future for us in terms of revenue isn't necessarily more clicks and views. It's going to be using the data to train an AI. We're gonna block search engines from it. You got either got to be a member to access, or you got to have to pay to come in. So if that world emerges and we start seeing, okay, everything is behind at least a registration wall, if not a paywall, how does that sort of affect us in recruiting and sourcing? And what other techniques do we need to develop in order to still do our sourcing job? Any thoughts on that? Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, just last week, there was a big announcement. I forget the name of the company. They're indexing Discord, and the Discord community is like up in arms because you can't scrape Discord, but a company's out there doing it. So the thought process there is like, there's always going to be somebody out there willing to do the dirty work. The UI scrapers we talked about today are like good people with venture capital building awesome product. They are not enriching the data. They are not scraping and violating LinkedIn's terms of service. They are partnering with a broker who is willing to do that dirty work. So the point there is just be patient. Like somebody's going to be willing to do it. But I think it comes down to like policy and strength in terms of service, and then just legal precedent. Who's going to take people to court over this? We got like a million other problems that our society should be focusing on anyway. And I think zooming out and saying, why are we looking at X-raying anyway? I shared that I like it as a preference just in my workflow. But ultimately, if you're an enterprise software company and you're looking at cost savings from ponying up to like a LinkedIn recruiter license, I almost see it as a utility at this point if they have that volume of people. And I think that argument is going to be made. Is it a platform? Is it a social network? Is it a data provider? Or is it a utility?
What are your thoughts on this, Chris?
I think that really hits the nail on the head. A lot of these platforms are going to be willing to offer some kind of a free trial as they're setting up these paywalls and figuring out, how do we want to leverage this data. So test the free trials, figure out what platform is going to find you the people that you're looking for, and then learn how to use that tool. If that's the future and it's all going to be paid platforms, a lot of what's going to come down to is how are you leveraging the tool effectively? Do you have the creative brains to figure out how to use the tool in ways that they didn't intend, so that you can be more effective at it? We've seen ways that people get around LinkedIn Recruiter by using Boolean in different parts where LinkedIn's trying to hold your hand, but we've also seen X-ray searching as an alternative to look at LinkedIn. The other alternative is just to go with your general open source intelligence approach. If people are going to put paywalls up, other people, us in particular, the regular people, are offering data freely. People put resumes out there all the time. They publish it. They have their about me or resume or portfolio sections on their personal websites, and those are findable. And so if those kinds of individuals think UI, UX engineers are the people you're looking for, they're some of the easiest people to find outside of LinkedIn, simply because they publish their portfolios. They want to be found. They want to showcase the work that they've done. So a lot of it is really just figuring out where they're at, meet them where they're at. The other alternative is find out where they hang out outside of work, right? If we're jumping into meetup groups or we're jumping into communities and trying to find people that maybe don't want to be found, so to speak, on LinkedIn, but they still have interests that they're trying to share and connect with others. We can find it there. But that's more of a long-term investment. It's less of the, hey, let me go blast 250 emails out and I'm going to have a slate of individuals to talk to.
Yeah, really good point. That actually segues to I believe a show that we did a couple of years ago, Erin, on community hiring or whatnot. Do you remember that? I think it was you. Definitely it was you, wasn't it? And we were talking about, okay, there's another way. Sourcing is pretty much distant from the community, so to say, because you're scraping a system and you're getting data. But there's other ways to actually interact with candidates, which is actually to jump into a community that they're part of or contribute to that community. You can find candidates in a completely different way. Okay, folks, I really have to rush you off because time is short. So Chris, thank you for joining and jumping on. Brandon, great to see you as well. I do beg your pardon, guys. I wanted to have you on a little bit longer, but I'm actually running out of power on my laptop, and there may well be a hard stop in 5 minutes. So I'm going to bring Isaac back on. Okay, great. Great to see you guys. Okay, here we go. Right, Isaac, you're back on, man, because we're talking about tools. One thing Chris said that was really interesting was that actually recruiters should be really quite aggressive and experiment with tools right now, because we can't just sit there and think LinkedIn's going to do the job. Let's say Google X-ray, sort of LinkedIn X-ray is damaged or compromised. Those are two major tools. Even though if we could say, there's workarounds, this, that, and the other, it's still going to introduce inefficiency in our work if we're not able to do it. So we should be massively signing up for free stuff. We should be looking at different things. We should be opening sort of windows in our day to say, let's play with this product and see what's what. Isaac, that's a cue for you, man. Let's see what HireFast is going to give us. Isaac, you're on mute. Let me unmute you. Can I unmute you? Maybe you need to unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm self-punishing myself. Nothing
Go
new.
ahead, man.
Anyway, here we go. This is the platform, HireFast. Very simple and easy. For example, you want to find React engineers, natural language processing. If I can spell right.
See, this is where you need to have a copy and paste ready to go, Isaac.
Yeah, I know. I tried to do that, but I don't want to look fake. I want to be el natural. Anyway, here we go. We did a natural language processing. We have a bunch of people showing me no need to write any kind of complex Boolean. We have 22,307 people in New York with React skill sets. How do we look at it? For example, we look at Sean. Here are his other social profiles, which we connected so that we can collaborate and confirm that this person attends meetups related to React and other technologies they mention, which gives you a little bit more of confidence. And for people like me, this is necessity. So this is why we built this platform, out of necessity, to be able to look further. So you can look at all of their combined data. Here is their score ranking. In React, 94.8% is how this person compares to the rest of the cohort. So he's in the top percentile. If you want to dig real deep, right, which I probably myself will not do, you can go and look at every repository that the software ranks and scores. So you can go deep. For example, you want to look at the source code, you could do that. If you want to go exactly into the lines of code, hopefully you can see this, you can look exactly at the lines of code that the software scored and ranked. Last but not least, well, of course, there's more, but we'll keep it simple. We're also going to already have created specific templates which you can email the candidate and contact them, going outside of the generic breakdown. Your resume looks great. You're wearing a nice shirt. I'd like to contact you, so on and so forth. So we kind of address exactly the skills that they may have, which we scored, and the reason why we're reaching out to them. So, we're in the early stages. We'd love for you guys to try it out, take a look at it, see how it feels, take a test drive. We take input. We have a team of folks that will be able to answer any questions. And I will share a link or actually one of my team members here will share a link in chat so you guys can sign up.
What is the deal on signing up, man? You say try it. What does that mean, Isaac?
So we're going to give you a grandfather price,
Okay.
which is going to be a significant discount to what we're going to charge when we fully commercialize the product and make it public. And yeah, that's the. You could try it out. We'll give you, of course, a free trial, no question, for a period of time. If you like it, then we'll give you a very low discount grandfather price.
Cool. That sounds great. Yeah. So free trial. How are you gonna do this free trial, Isaac? Is it based on the sort of days that I've got, or is it number of searches? Like what's the constraint?
We're gonna give it to you based on number of days, week or 2 weeks or a month, or
Cool.
we're still going through that iteration. After that, it's going to be mostly credit based.
Yep. Love
You'll
it.
consume credits as you go.
Okay, I love to try before you buy because that's like zero risk for everybody, folks.
100%.
I think, go and give it a shot. I don't know whether someone's actually shared that link into the chat stream yet, but if they haven't, let's keep reshare that, please. In fact, reshare it now because I need to actually put it into the LinkedIn sort of groups as well. And yeah, go ahead and give it a shot because this seems to be number one, free trial, and then number two, potential grandfather price if you want to go ahead and go further. So, folks, we also have forgotten to do one critical thing in all of this process. We might be too late, but we'll do it anyway. We always want to make sure that we continue the conversation, even though Hung Lee's computer is about to run out of energy. What you got to do now, folks, just grab your LinkedIn URL, share in the chat stream real quick. Make sure you connect with everyone who has done the same because this has been a wonderful conversation. And what needs to happen is that we all need to be more connected. There's another way in which you can start, improving your capability of finding candidates is actually if you expand your network. So that's something you should all do. Share your LinkedIn into your LinkedIn URL in the chat stream. If you're watching this on LinkedIn now, just use it. Use the comment thread, stick your LinkedIn URL in there, and then connect with everyone else that you see do the same. You'll walk away with, it looks like it's couple of hundred people watching this. So walk away with at least 100 or so new connections that are passionate about industry, care about the topic, and indeed might be able to help in some way in future. Okay, that's about it, folks. Great to see everybody. Isaac, thank you so much for your presentation and joining us and your very generous offer. Erin, wonderful to see you again as usual. Great to have you here as co-host. We will not see you all next week, by the way, because I will see. I've got to remove Isaac and Erin from the screen. Erin, I'll let you go, my dear. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, there is no Brainfood Live next week, folks. Reason why is because I am not going to be here. I'm going to be traveling again. I'm going to be in Amsterdam, and I have to give a talk at exactly this time of week. So I've got 7 days to do that, actually do the talk. So no Brainfood Live next week. We're going to go back to normal programming on the 10th of May. We're going to be talking about recruitment dashboards, how to build an effective recruiting dashboard. We've got some amazing guests to help us with that. Luke Eaton's going to join us. Michael Talarek's going to join us. Jeremy Thornton's going to be there. Chloe Morrison's going to be there. It's going to be amazing. So make sure you sign up for that if you haven't already done so. Follow the channel if you want to be notified whenever we go on air. Okay, folks. Thank you very much, Lee. That's very kind of you to say. But yeah, we'll let you go now. You have a very good weekend. We'll see you next time.